Hello, lassies. Welcome to Coaching and a Cup of Tea with Mummabear and also Sue McCarroll today, one of my best friends in the entire world. You are very lucky to get to hear from this lassie because she is sunshine in a cup. And even though you can't see her, she's just smiling massive, which is who she is. I am so excited to have her on my podcast for season 8. Season 8 is all about retreats, self-care, how do we take care of our bodies and our mind. And Sue McCarroll is the lassie to explain to us how we do that. But before we get into that, Sue, why don't you tell us like the 5 things that we need to know about Sue McCarroll?
Okay. I feel like this is right in line with our friendship because I'm really bad about I'm so good at promoting other people and not so great about promoting myself. So I feel like it's just perfect that, for those of you that don't know about Melissa and my friendship, we kind of challenge each other. And actually she challenges me. I think I challenge you too in the health front, but we could talk about that later. But she always seems to like to throw me into these situations go speak on this stage. Oh, don't worry. There's a top 10 motivational speaker there. No worries. Don't worry. So it feels just about right to start this podcast off. So 5 things that they should know about me. Let's see. I am a nationally certified Pilates teacher. I teach classical style of Pilates, and my ultimate goal always is for everyone to know that anyone can do Pilates and Pilates is for everyone. And I am a holistic health coach from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And I would say I'll leave you with one quote that tells you all about how I coach. You can change your life one choice at a time.
Ooh, I love that one. So good.
And I might put that on a shirt tonight. I'm trying to do some swag. Number 3, Melissa and I met when Cannon was in treatment, and we both had at the time, yes, you had twins already. So I have twins in the reverse order. So I have twins and a younger son, and she has Cannon and then twins, but we both have 3 boys. And then she went on to adopt Charlie, and she has her stepdaughter, Olivia. But we connected over 3 boys, Starbucks, Scotland, because my husband was raised in a Scottish immigrant household, and Honey Grow noodles. If you live in the New Jersey, Pennsylvania area, you'll know what I'm talking about. That was 3. Oh my goodness. Number 4. This is hard. I have a podcast.
An amazing podcast for all of you people who are into health and body and mindset, all of the things. So we'll link up your podcast.
Podcast. Okay. It's called the Well To You podcast. And now I have one more. I mean, I feel like I did a lot of things already. Let's see. I don't know. Is there something I'm forgetting? I'm the amazing health coach on the retreats called Waterfalls and Wonders, run by Melissa Wiggins.
That is why Sue is here today. We are talking, this season, we're talking a lot about how do we take time for ourselves? How do we give ourselves permission to go on retreat? How do we move away from those selfish feelings we get, right? Of I'm taking time away from my responsibilities or family. And this season already, we heard from someone who was on the retreat, but I thought it would be really beautiful to have Sue on because Sue and I run the retreat together. We are the team that makes all of the magic at Waterfalls and Wonder happen. And for us, by the way, just side note, it's like a dream come true. To get to work with your best friends, we're wait, what? We get paid to do this? We would do it for free, okay?
Yes.
That's who we're at. We get to spend a week together or a little short of a week, but we get to spend some time together at the Magical Lake House in South Carolina. And we both have kind of different skills. And so it's just beautiful the way it kind of comes together like a puzzle. Sue does Pilates and has them moving their body every day, which we'll talk a little bit about. And she also cooks these ridiculously delicious meals that are made with all the most wholesome ingredients. Then she teaches us about what we're eating and why we need to eat it. And I, basically make people cry for 3 days and then like occasionally challenge them to like whitewater raft or zip line or, so it works out great for everybody, I feel like.
I'll just pop in and say the challenges are so fun. And no one listening to this will understand that, but she is absolutely right. In the very beginning of the show, I said that she challenges me, and she even challenges me when I'm on the retreat. And at our last retreat, we did zip lining, and I said, oh, this is not going to be bad. I took my son zip lining for his birthday. I'm like, this is fine. And we pull up, and then I see like how high this, and I'm like, this is not what I did before. So I kind of coached myself into this idea of like, I really struggle with that moment. Like, I'm good on the platform, I'm good on the zip line, but the moment where you have to sit down and they're going to like push you off. So every time that happened, I would say, this is so fun. And I think after a while, I started to believe it.
She did keep saying it over and over. And I was like, hey, your reticulator activating system is really believing this is fun and it's looking for the fun right now. But
it's true.
The retreat is, I talked about it last episode, actually, like part of the reason why we do challenges is to create evidence, right? And I actually talked about you, Sue, in the last podcast episode, because I said, one of the things you said was, I feel less anxious about doing this thing today because, which was plunging into ice cold water at the bottom of a waterfall for those listening. But I feel less anxious about that because last retreat, Melissa, you made us whitewater raft on level 4 rapids on like the coldest day in South Carolina in history. So,
yes.
So I like it's, that we're joking about it and having fun with it because we're best friends, but also like really everybody creates evidence while they're on it. And we do it very purposefully. And right. Sue and I grow with the lassies. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful. Sue and I are not saying, hey, lassies, like we're in charge, like we're going to show you how to do it. We come together. It's almost like a little mastermind retreat and we pour into each other and we use different skills. And Sue and I are just kind of not leading along, but sort of like, come this way, try this,
That's right.
Like, it's really beautiful. And I really wanted you to be a big part of the retreat because I feel like you have been such a big influence in my life for so many reasons, but very, very much in the health place. And so full disclosure, and Sue and I talk about this on retreat, when Sue met me, and this just shows you how much she really loved me, I was like a Diet Coke / like drive-through McDonald's girl. And if you knew me today, you would be like, nah, not Melissa. Like, I don't believe that. But the truth is, when we met, I was in a very hard place with my son, Cannon, who was fighting stage 4 cancer, for those of you that are listening and are new. And Sue was, supporting me through that treatment of his. But during that time, I ate and drank horribly because I was in a survival mode and in a place where mentally food was just not, and health was just not something I was thinking about. And so Sue did what I think is really beautiful in a health coach, which she didn't judge. She just was an example to me, right? Like she was an example in the choices that she made. And I feel like that is the sign for me of a very, very good coach. Someone who is not saying, and you say this a lot, even on retreat, guys, this might not be for you. This is just what I do, right? Like this doesn't need to be for you. This is just what I do. And so why don't you tell us a little bit, Sue, about like, how do you come up with the meal ideas? Like what kind of things do you teach everybody at dinner time? Because it's all very organic, even though I know it's all super intentional. And I know there's a lot of prep that goes into it, but you just make it look like you're just chilling at home, making us these like ridiculously divine meals. So like, tell us more about it.
So actually, surprisingly, most of the menu items are things I make regularly at home for my family. So I don't really, and that is intentional. Like I intentionally went into the retreat and I wasn't going to cook. Well, first of all, I'm not like a fancy chef. I'm more of like someone who loves to cook good, healthy food, right? And have for a long time. So just as a little background for me, I, in my 20s, had really severe, I'm a highly sensitive person. I had really severe migraines to the point where at one point in my 20s, I had like 5 days a week, I would be in pain. Mm-hmm. And I had to basically, through the support of other people, like I went to a biological therapist and they helped me figure out that I was sensitive to cow dairy and like a lot of different things. But so what I teach is really about my journey through life and how to keep my highly sensitive body happy, right? But really, the way you keep a highly sensitive body happy is by like reducing your toxin load, eating clean, healthy food, right? So it's all the same stuff. And intentionally, I wanted to bring things that people could feel like they could easily make at home, right? And I'm going to share this tip now because I feel like I'll forget in a second, but I have a really crazy busy life. I have 3 boys. One goes to school in another city. Like, it's pretty wild. And so sometimes even me as a health coach, like we'll get into a rut where we're just kind of like pulling healthy food out of the freezer and heating it up. And I get frustrated and I'm like, okay, I need to figure out how I'm going to get back onto a cooking schedule. And what I do to do that is I choose the simplest, easiest meal. So I might choose some like quinoa takes about 5 minutes to make. Quinoa is sort of it's a grain, but it's not a grain. It's gluten-free. It has protein in it. It's a great, great ancient grain. And I cook some of that, which takes like 5 to 10 minutes. I roast veggies in my oven, which, you know, once you put them in, it's really a total of 5 minutes of effort. Mm-hmm. And then I'll throw in some salmon or something like that. And so that reminds me, oh, wait, making dinner can be easy, right? Mm-hmm. And that's sort of like the idea at the retreat, like to show people that like you can do these things at home, because it's one thing to come to a retreat. And I think that there's a place for this kind of retreat too. It's just not what we do. Right. But, you know, to come and have all these fancy meals and you're there and you're eating it and you feel amazing, but you get home and you feel like there's no way that you could accomplish them in your life, you know?
Yeah, I love that. And I think you do an amazing job. And one of my favorite things, so we have like these little group takes that we create during retreat, and Sue and I just love them, and we like text outside of them of like how proud we are of everybody. But everybody will send pictures of like making something that Sue did, and it's just the most cutest thing ever. They'll be like, Sue, are you so proud of me? I made a salad jar. Sue, I printed all the menus. Sue, I'm like, and Sue and I just love it because it's like, again, like everything feels very organic, but what happens is, you know, someone will be in the kitchen helping Sue make something, and then someone will be doing the dishes, and someone will be setting the table, and it's like we become this little family just cooking these meals for a couple days. And then you explain what you did, and everyone's just mystified that there's like 3 ingredients, or, you know, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I just got a text the other day from Amara, who was on the last retreat, and she, the salmon that I made was like the only salmon she's ever liked. So she was like, you know, going to make that. And then actually, ironically, so a year ago was the first retreat that we did together. And in my Facebook memories popped up Liv Myers, and she was like making mason jar salads and drinking, like cheersing a smoothie with her boyfriend, like that I had shared way back when. So it's so true. And it's kind of cool for us because now like twice a year, all these awesome memories come up for us.
No, it's amazing. We love it. And we feel so lucky to get to do it. And I agree. I think, you know, there are places and times to have lots of fancy, healthy meals. But
Yeah.
our thing is always like, we want people to take a little slice of the retreat home with them, right? Whether that is a 2-week rate, whether that is the evidence that they can do hard things, like whatever it is, we want them to take a little piece of it home. And I mean, that's why I think a lot of people come back and they want more of it. Right. We could just do retreats all year long, but
That's
this is like, what would you say to someone who, you know, wants to sort of get healthy in terms of what they eat? Would you just tell them to try like simple things first, not overcomplicate it? Like, how do you start with a health coaching client?
I definitely keep it simple, but I actually, and this may not be for everybody, but works really well for my mind and has worked really well for my clients. We start one meal at a time. So we look at breakfast first. And then for like 2 weeks, they just work on making their breakfast as healthy as possible. And then when breakfast feels like solidified and it feels easy and they look forward to it, then we move on to lunch. And then we do the same thing with lunch. And then we move on to dinner. And what really happens towards the end, once you're on breakfast and you're starting to nail down lunch, you almost automatically start to make changes in dinner, because there is this phenomenon. Like, if you wake up and you get a workout in and you eat a healthy breakfast and then you eat a healthy lunch, you naturally don't want to ruin it with dinner. Right. So it's like, if you've already made it through 3/4 of the day, doing like a great job taking care of yourself, it's like natural encouragement to finish up the day strong.
Yeah, I love that. And I can imagine, like, and I think that's why people fail a lot of the time. And fail is probably not the best word to use, but like fall off the beam is taking on too much of like all of these changes, and they're not sustainable.
Yeah. And I'll say, like, I give lots of recipes, but I do not do written meal plans. I do not do calorie counting. I do not do, let's look at the scale and see what you have lost. That's not how I coach. And I think that does work for some, but I don't really personally feel like it's very sustainable for a happy life. Like, in that situation, when you have a written meal plan and it's like you make one mistake off of it, then you feel like you ruined it and you just throw the rest of the day away. And really, it's just not like, we're creating a lifestyle of habits, or like a life of habits that are going to help us feel our best self. Like, it's not really, and I know I'm not always the most popular opinion on this, but it's not about how you look. I mean, it is about how you look, but it's not about, are you a size 6 or are you a size 10? It's not about the number on the scale. It's about, like, is your hair shiny? Are your nails growing really strong? Does your skin glow? Like, that's, do you feel strong? Do you feel confident? Those are the things that it's about.
And I think, like, to add to that, like, the clarity and the energy that comes from eating good, there's no energy drink or coffee that can give you the same. There just isn't.
Correct. And I will say, like, if you're one of those people that gets, the afternoon slump, like that, 3 to 5, 2 to 5 time where you feel brain fog and you feel tired, most likely that's a sign that you need to look at what you're putting in your body. Sleep is always so important, but how much sleep you're getting, what you're putting in your body. And there's a good thought. I just spent the whole weekend with a teacher trainer here at my studio. She was teaching us her method for working with clients with breast cancer thrivers and survivors. Okay. And she taught a fundraiser class on moving your lymph system, right? And so your lymph system is basically, it's kind of like, so you have your heart, and your heart pumps the blood, and then you sort of have this other system called the lymph. And the lymph doesn't have something that pumps it. And the way that the lymph gets moved is by moving your body, right? Mm-hmm. So when you are stagnant and you don't move, the toxins that are in the lymph are not able to be flushed out of your body and not able to be moved. So I think, the food we eat and how we move through our life is what really plays into that sort of brain fog and tiredness.
Yeah, I love that. So let's talk about moving our body. And I know that Pilates is your movement of choice. Why don't you tell us what you do Pilates wise at the retreat and why you believe everybody should do Pilates?
Okay, well, so I would like to start by saying that Joseph Pilates was created by a man. So when people say it's just for women, that really like gets under my skin and irks me because I'm like, dude, the creator was a man. And he was like a man's man. He was a boxer. He was German. He would walk down the streets of New York City in his little briefs, like, because Germans believe that you should get cold air on your skin. I don't know if you know about that. I mean, we do. We did our cold plunge.
Yeah.
But basically what Pilates does, and I'll tell you what it did for me, and that'll sort of give you a little understanding. But Pilates, every single exercise is designed to strengthen and stretch you at the same time, right? So when people come to Pilates and they say, can we just stretch today? That's like, there's a million memes amongst Pilates teachers about that, because we're like, we don't do it like that. That's not how it works, right? But Pilates, for me, I'm a hypermobile person, so which means all my joints are very flexible and not very stable. That was amazing for me when I was a dancer, but it's not so amazing for moving through your life and not having millions of injuries. And for me, the stability that Pilates brought to my joints is what allows me to do things like whitewater rafting and zip lining and not get hurt. Right. So because I think people don't understand, like, even, when we went zip lining today, there are still things that I carry with me from before I did Pilates. Like, I always have to watch my shoulders, because your shoulders are your most, I can never say the word, vulnerable joint. And the way you have to hold on to the zip line, you guys can't see me, but you have to reach behind you, and then you kind of use that hand as a brake. And that was sort of making me nervous, putting my shoulder in that position. But because I do Pilates, I was fine. But I feel 100% confident that had I not done Pilates, that I definitely could have hurt myself doing that. And that's sort of what Pilates has done for me. Pilates can be really powerful for anyone, particularly for people with back stuff. So if you have any kind of back stuff going on, if I had to pick one thing that Pilates can fix the most, it's your back, right? And you have to remember, like, you're not going to a physical therapist. So you're not going to come in and the person's going to work on the injury. We're actually going to work around it. But the exercises that we're going to do are going to heal your body. So for example, if you have a knee injury, we're going to work around it. And as we do those exercises, your pelvis is going to get into a better place. Your feet are going to get stronger because there's a closed chain between your hip and your knee and your foot. So most times when there's a knee injury, it's either coming from the bottom up or from the top down, right? They're always connected. Like when I see someone, they say, like, I have a foot thing, I'm automatically looking at their knee and their hip and vice versa. So it's like literally the most powerful thing I've ever done. I feel really blessed and lucky to have learned it from amazing sources. And actually, in the spring, I'm going to be doing a teacher training program. So I'm going to be passing along some of that knowledge. So I think basically it's this idea of full body strength. Like, we think of Pilates, we have to go to Pilates because we need a strong core, and you will 100% get a strong core. But by the time you're done, but by the time you really have a good grasp on Pilates, every single exercise is going to be a full body workout.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's like, and when you think that he created this, 75 years ago, and some of the quotes I share on my Instagram that he said, like, that he wrote 50 years ago, that make total sense to us now in this enlightened world that we live in, probably made no sense to the people in the world that he lived in, right? Because he was in New York at that time where, like, the women were going to those gyms where, like, the belt would go around their waist and, like, shake them, and that was like the workout, like. Right.
I love, like, the thing I love about the Pilates, like you said, is like, and one of the reels or posts that you did post retreat was like, look, everybody's body shape is different. There's tall people, small people, like different shapes of bodies. Like, we're all different, and yet we were all getting the benefit of it. And on retreat, like you always comment, you know, we get to do it with like trees around us or on a dock or by a fireplace. And so it's like the most magical type of Pilates that I think that you can do.
Yeah.
And it's this beautiful way to get us into the day. And we do it every morning. Like, we're doing that before we start doing any of the mind stuff, because the whole retreat is about that mind-body connection. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that I think I learned about Pilates in the process of having you teach me, is that I'm really learning to be conscious at the same time. I'm being
1,000%.
very present. Like, I'm really having to focus on this thing, and I'm increasing my consciousness, which then in turn is helping me much easierly get tuned in when I have to go do the meditation part later, or more of the somatic exercises later. And I think that's not something that I really heard too much talked about before. And I'm sure it is in the Pilates world, but I just didn't know it.
Well, and I will say, like the style of Pilates that I teach, I do not do with the students. So when I teach them Pilates, I'm like standing up looking at the beautiful lake, and I'm using my words. But there are very few things in our life nowadays where we have to listen to someone's voice without visual input and take that from our mind and translate. That's a lot of steps, and that's really hard. And I'm not saying that to like discourage you from doing it. I'm saying it's exactly what our minds need as we age, right? Like, so it's not just an exercise of the body.
Yeah, I think that it is. I have, you and I have joked around about this, because you're always like, Melissa, you can, I think I made comment the other day about, what did I say? Oh yeah, I needed to go to the bathroom so many times on my drive home. And you're like, you need to do more Pilates.
I know. That's like, I feel like my little joke with everybody when people say something about an issue they have. But like, the funny thing is like, I say that, and I say it because I really, truly believe it to be true. Yeah. Like, I really, truly, and it's like, you know, the magic of the exercises, you know, like, yes, I know how to teach them, and I know how to teach them well, but it's how they were designed, you know?
I think what I love so much about getting to do the retreat with you, aside of the fact that I love you and adore you, and, you know, we can have a pajama party when everybody leaves. Yes. But like, the other part of that is that it's like we have like a health retreat with a Pilates retreat with a mindset retreat, like in one. Like, that's what we're able to achieve together. And it's just like, I love it. I mean, I want to go on our retreat.
Yes.
Like, I would like to stay too. And sleep in the big room.
Yeah. Yes. I agree. Yes. No, I agree completely. It's like really cool for me that, like, I may not be on the retreat as a guest, but being able to step aside, and maybe I'm still working, but I'm stepping aside of my everyday life, and I'm able to like really pour into these women, and that like helps fill my cup too. So I mean, I think at the very first retreat, people were like, oh, you're doing so much work for the cooking, and I'm like, no, I'm so excited to cook for people that actually want to eat my food, because I have 2 13-year-olds and a 10-year-old, and generally they do like a good amount of the things I make, but I get a lot of like, oh, that's horrible, I don't want that.
Yes. And everybody loves it and wants to know more about it and why it's good for them. And that's what I love. Like, come the end of the retreat, like, their body is like lubricated and moved. Their mind has belief that they can do challenges and hard things, and their bellies are full. So they're like leaving, and they're just feeling so reset. And you're a massive part of that. So I felt like you needed to come on the podcast and tell everybody why you are a part of the retreat. And I feel like we did that.
We did. And I'll leave you with one thought. When I went food shopping this time, I tend, in the years past or in the retreats past, I would just like keep filling the cart till it overflowed. So I decided a new strategy this time. And I got all of the produce first because that could sit in the car while I got the rest. And I purchased an entire Publix, like the full-size shopping cart Publix of produce. Like it was completely full. And the only thing that I had purchased at that point was produce. And ironically, for people that feel like eating healthy is too expensive, that cart was way cheaper than the cart of, the fish that I bought and the other things that I bought that were not from that produce section. So it's like, honestly, eating fresh like that is actually cheaper than not.
And we had so much food.
So much food. Yes. I will say that's where like the Italian in me comes out, and I feel like I need to buy it. I don't want anyone to go hungry.
Yeah, nobody goes hungry on retreat. I don't think we have to think about that. We got
definitely not.
And it's delicious. All right. Well, where can everybody find you? I will link up everything on the show case notes, but where should they visit your stuff first?
So my personal business is Opal Wellness Studio. That's on Instagram it's at Opal_wellness_studio. And that is where I spend most of my time on Instagram, although we are currently branching out into some other places, but they're not ready yet. I am on Facebook as well at the same address. And then I have a Facebook group called the Opal Life Group, which is just a group that anybody can join. And I share lots of different health related things in there. And then I have a podcast called the Well to You Podcast. And they're in that. The podcast's Instagram is at Well to You Podcast. Well, 2, and then YOU.
And it's amazing. You should definitely listen to it. But I'll link everything up there. And then I'll also link the retreat for anybody that is listening to this in real time, because we have another retreat in April. We always have them April and October. So maybe. And
I will say, if anybody wants to Zoom into Pilates class, if you're not local to New Jersey, that is, all my classes are hybrid. So
yes,
come on
amazing. Woohoo! All right. Well, thank you so much, Sue McCarroll. We love you. I love you. You're amazing.
I love you too. And I can't wait till April.
I know. Seriously.